Hello, my demonstration today is going to be how to take the wheels and bearings out of a rollerblade, clean the bearings, and then put everything back together. For this, you're going to need your rollerblade, your wheels and bearings, which are already in my rollerblade. You're going to need an Allen wrench to take the wheels off the skate. You're going to need a bearing pusher to take the bearings out of the wheel. And you're going to need a safety pin in order to take the cover off of the bearing. And last, you'll need your bearing cleaner, of course, for cleaning the bearings. So the first step, of course, is to get the wheel off of our skate. We take our Allen wrench and we just unscrew it. Takes a moment because obviously we want to make sure the wheels don't fall off while we're skating, so they've got to be screwed in nice and tight. We get that out. Don't lose any of your pieces. There's a lot of little parts here and you don't want to misplace anything. So we've got our wheel separated from our skate. Now we've got our two bearings and a spacer inside of here that we've got to get out. We take our bearing pusher. That's going to go right into the middle of the wheel, and we're just going to push through. And that's going to knock out a bearing from one side and your spacer from the middle. In order to get the bearing out of the other side, we're going to take that spacer, put it right back into the middle of the wheel, and push the opposite bearing out the other side. So now we've got a wheel with no bearings, we've got our spacer, and we've got two bearings that we took out. Now for the bearing to be cleaned, we have to get the cover off. The cover of the bearing includes just the bearing shield that keeps all the dust and dirt out while you're skating, and a C-ring, which is just a little metal that's got a little bit of spring to it that goes under the top lip of the bearing to hold the shield on to keep the dust out. This is where our safety pin comes in. Be very careful. This is probably the trickiest part. You don't want to poke yourself with your safety pin, and you don't want that C-ring to go flying across the room because you're going to have a hard time finding it. So they call it a C-ring because it's got a little space in it. Find that space and just reach in with the safety pin and grab hold of the C-ring and pop it out. Sometimes it's very easy. Sometimes it takes a little work and finagling to get that C-ring out. But hold on to that tight, put it somewhere you're not going to lose it. To get the cover off, that little shield, we just knock the bearing against our table or whatever we're using, and it pops it right off. We'll do that for both sides. Get everything open. Once we've got all the bearings out, all the covers off, we go to our solution, which has got a nice little holder, and as you can see, I've already taken a bearing and put it on. You'd place all your bearings on there and just put it right back into the container of the solution. Put the top on, give it a little shake, and you let that sit for 5 minutes, let it do its work and clean those bearings out for you. After 5 minutes, we're going to take everything back out. You can either let the bearings air dry or use a paper towel and dry them off by hand. At that point, we have to put the bearings back together. The first step is going to be take that shield and just set it on the top. To hold it in place, we have that tricky C-ring I told you about. We're just placing it back under that top little lip on the bearing, and we want to make sure it catches all around. Just a little circular motion with your thumb over the top kind of guides it in, makes it nice and easy and keeps it there. So we put all our bearings back together. Now we're putting our bearings back in our wheels. You'll take your first bearing, set it on the top of your wheel, and again, just pressure from your thumbs is more than enough to pop it back in, so we've got the first one back in place. We take our spacer, we set it in there, and we take our second bearing and put it right on top. Again, just enough pressure from your hands, doesn't take much, and we've got our two bearings and spacers right back into our wheel. Now that we've got our wheels back together, we can put them all back on our skate and we can get right back out there. Again, this part will need our Allen wrench. We'll put our screws right back in, tighten it up with our Allen wrench, and we'll have a set of all freshly cleaned bearings ready to go and get out there skating again. Nice and tight, you don't want anything falling off. and you are set to go. Thanks for watching.